There is a moment almost no one talks about. A moment that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No shouting, no confrontation, no revenge arc, no emotional collapse. But psychologically, it is an earthquake. Carl Jung discovered something that deeply unsettles narcissistic personalities, not because it makes the empath cruel, but because it makes them unreachable. And narcissists cannot survive what they cannot reach. This moment happens when the empath is no longer wounded, but done. Not bitter, not hardened, not cold, not vengeful, just finished. And if you're listening to this and something in you feels strangely calm, strangely familiar, stay with me. This may not be content. It may be recognition. If this kind of deep psychology resonates with you, take a moment to like the video. It helps this work reach others who need it. Chapter 1. Psychological Alchemy. When pain stops leaking. Jung described this moment as an alchemical turning point. Not a breakdown. Not a reaction. A psychic reaction where poison is not expelled, but absorbed, digested, and transformed into something else entirely. He called this process psychological alchemy. And once it happens, the empath does not become dangerous in the way the world expects. They become unbreakable. Most people misunderstand empaths. They think empathy is weakness. They think sensitivity equals fragility. They think kindness means naivete. But Jung saw something radically different. He believed empaths possess what he called authentic being, a psyche rooted in lived experience, not image. Narcissists, by contrast, do not live from being. They live from persona. Reflections, borrowed energy, external validation. Where the empath feels deeply, the narcissist performs deeply. And this difference changes everything when the empath reaches their limit. If this already feels familiar, subscribe to the Mind Kit. This channel exists for those moments of quiet inner awakening that don't get talked about enough. Chapter 2. Psychological Vampireism and the Reversal of Power. A narcissist feeds on reaction, admiration, fear, confusion, emotional chaos. Jung later conceptualized this as a form of psychological vampirism, not evil in a cinematic sense, but unconscious. The narcissist does not drain because they enjoy cruelty. They drain because they are empty. The empath, meanwhile, has always been full, but leaking energy. Leaking forgiveness, leaking understanding, leaking chances, until one day they stop. And that is when the balance of power reverses. Jung warned that the most dangerous psychological transformation is not rage, it is integration. Because when the empath integrates what they were taught to suppress, anger, boundaries, discernment, self-authority, they do not swing into cruelty. They swing into clarity. Jung called this enantiodromia, when something carried to the extreme transforms into its opposite. Excessive empathy becomes sovereignty. Endless giving becomes self-possession. Silence becomes presence. And presence is terrifying to those who rely on manipulation. Chapter 3. Withdrawal without war. Here's what narcissists never expect. The empath doesn't fight back. They withdraw psychic access. No more explaining. No more defending. No more proving reality. Just an internal shift. And suddenly, manipulation has nowhere to land. Jung believed this moment marks the beginning of individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not good, not moral, not socially acceptable. Whole. And wholeness does not negotiate with dysfunction. This is why the fed-up empath is not loud. They are calm. They don't expose the narcissist. They don't chase justice. They don't need closure. They simply stop participating in the illusion. An illusion is the narcissist's oxygen. If this resonates, leave a comment, sometimes naming the experience as part of healing. Chapter 4. The Unlived Life and the Breaking Point. Jung once wrote, "The greatest burden a human can carry is an unlived life, The empath has lived too much for others. The narcissist has lived too little within themselves. When the empath stops offering their inner world as shelter, the narcissist is forced to face their own emptiness. And that confrontation is unbearable. This is the alchemical moment. Suffering becomes insight. Pain becomes structure. Empathy becomes power. Not power over others, power within. From this moment on, the empath moves through distinct psychological stages Jung outlined long before modern psychology gave them names. Stages that end with something rare. An empath who cannot be manipulated. Chapter 5: The 3 Stages of the Empath's Awakening. Jung never used the modern word empath, but he absolutely described them. A psyche deeply attuned to emotional fields, oriented toward meaning rather than dominance. And he noticed something crucial. They do not remain the same. Stage 1: The unconscious empath. The unconscious empath feels everything and understands almost nothing. They absorb moods, internalize blame, feel responsible for others' pain. They confuse intensity with intimacy, trauma bonding with love, self-erasure with virtue. Empathy is porous here. Boundaries feel cruel. Jung would say they are identified with the shadow of others, carrying what others refuse to face. This is why narcissists are instinctively drawn to them. What feels like connection is actually projection. Eventually, exhaustion forces awareness. Stage 2: The wounded awakening empath. This is the most painful phase. The moment they realize, I've been giving life to something that feeds on me. This is the encounter with their own shadow. Anger they were taught to suppress. Boundaries labeled selfish. Instincts dismissed as wrong. They oscillate between compassion and rage, between guilt and clarity, between leaving and staying. Narcissists fight hardest here, not strategically, but in panic. Because once a complex becomes conscious, it begins to lose power. Awareness hurts because integration hasn't happened yet. But this stage is the gateway. Stage 3: The sovereign empath. This is the stage Jung deeply respected. The empath doesn't lose empathy. They master it. They observe instead of merge. Speak once instead of over-explaining. Understand themselves instead of seeking understanding. Anger becomes discernment. Sensitivity becomes perception. Compassion becomes choice. And narcissists cannot tolerate this. No reaction. No supply. No collapse. Just presence. Anchored people are immune to manipulation. Chapter 6: The Rise Method, Individuation in Motion. Jung believed real change doesn't come from thinking differently, but from psychic reorganization. We'll call this the Rise Method. A recognition. Seeing patterns instead of incidents. Stopping the romanticization of suffering. Integration. Reclaiming anger refusal, the right to leave without explanation. A conscious shadow protects. Separation. Psychic withdrawal. Withdrawing projections. Energy returns home. The narcissist experiences irrelevance, not rejection. The embodiment. You don't think differently. You exist differently. Your nervous system changes. Your presence slows. Silence becomes grounded. Manipulation no longer registers. Chapter 7: Psychological Vampireism versus Conscious Empathy. Psychological vampirism feeds on reaction. Conscious empathy operates from choice. One collapses without supply. The other endures without permission. The sovereign empath can feel deeply without giving access. And this is why awakened empaths terrify narcissists. Not because they attack, but because they cannot be consumed. Chapter 8: The Empathic Warrior and the End of the Mask. Jung believed the goal of development was not goodness. It was wholeness. Goodness without strength collapses. Strength without empathy corrupts. But integrated together, an empathic warrior emerges. They don't expose narcissists. They render them irrelevant. presence cannot be manipulated. The narcissist mask collapses, not by force, but by lack of audience. The empath never wanted power, but power arrives the moment they stop abandoning themselves. Finally, the truth. Empathy was never meant to be endless giving. It was meant to be perception. Your sensitivity was not a flaw. It was training. Training to see beneath masks. Training to feel subtle shifts. Training to recognize when something is no longer alive. Once that training completes, you don't return to innocence. You return to truth. And truth does not shout. It does not chase. It does not convince. It stands. If you made it this far, this wasn't entertainment. It was recognition. And recognition is the first step of freedom.